people are dumb enough to go, oh, but it's on my phone. So when it comes into you and now it's like, you suck, your dad was famous, you're awful, you're boring, you hate my team, but whatever. Yeah, I go right back to the playground, and then I'm like, okay, I'll show you. And every once in a while I'll take the bait and I'll send screenshots to my daughter, both of them, and they'll be like, Dad, you're so dumb. Everybody gets this stuff. Look at Kim Kardashian's Twitter.
Sure.
I'm like, I don't want to look. I don't care about Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
But they're like, it's just, nobody cares about this stuff anymore. And maybe not. But when it comes to you, it's like, you can get 3 or 4 good ones. Those just blow right through those and you don't even blink. And then you get one that's like, and I refuse to say from somebody's who's in their mom's basement, this could be the CEO of a company. I have no idea. But when it hits the right notes, I'm like, oh, I'm back at Rossman School being called Joe Buck the Dancing Truck or whatever the hell I was called.
Joe Buck the Dancing Truck.
See, you would have laughed at that. I
think it's hilarious. Yeah, I know. I'm just terrible. No, but the thing that, and I've spoken about this on this show before because I find this, I'm so glad you admit this because through the Hogan trial, right? In terms of just resentments that I have, it's not like the Hall of Supervillains that were basically kind of orchestrating that. But I remember 2 reporters who made me feel less human than I think I actually wanted to feel at that point. And a lot of what I try to do with this show is speak to people about like, these hard moments in their life in the way that I wanted to be spoken to at that time, right? Not that I deserved it, right? Because I recognize kind of the character that people mostly saw of me, from the Gawker era, from the Deadspin era. I mean, we got to know each other during the Deadspin era, and I didn't realize the power that I had at that point, but I did. I mean, I was very much in control of people's personal lives and professional lives in a way that I really didn't handle well sometimes, right?
It's not that different than what I talked about with the USA Today. You had power there and I was trying to think about this last night. Like when I first came across you or I first and I think I'm right, and I could be dead wrong, but I think I'm right. It was when I was getting divorced.
Yeah.
Right?
That was when you called me.
That's when you did 2 things for me, I think, if I remember this right. And back then it was like the most important thing in my life, and now it's like a blur. I don't even really remember any of that. But my mom, who's my biggest fan and, wonderful, got cornered by a reporter in St. Louis, like a gossip guy, and he's like, hey, I hear your son Joe's getting divorced. And then that got into his column, wherever he was writing at that point.
Very small, like penny newspaper sort of thing.
Correct. But you guys got it. Somebody got it to you. And so that got into, I guess, Deadspin. I guess. It was Deadspin. And then there was like a rumor I was gay.
Right.
And then that got into an article. And I remember I messaged you. And you were nice enough to say, hey, this is a public forum where you're messaging me.
Yeah.
Here's my number or whatever you said. Call me. And I said, look, you don't have to do anything. You don't know me. But I'm going through this. And my daughter's really the only thing I care about. And if you can, whatever you did, and you did. And you kind of stood down. And that really made an impression on me.
Yeah.
And it was, you didn't owe me that, but you did it. And it was big. It was big for me.
You said, my kids don't know yet. I think that's what you said to me.
Yeah.
And I had just gone through something similar with, Sean Salisbury's son, when Sean Salisbury was going through something kind of, public at that point. And, I was poking him and, he was obviously saying some stuff that I was just feeding into the machine the whole time, right? And his son reached out and, said something along the lines of just, my dad's going through something right now. Can you just like lay off? And I did, right? But it was always one of those things where I was kind of conflicted about my job. I mean, I used to get yelled at a lot by my boss for not running certain things and pulling certain things down. I mean, I was always conflicted by a lot of that stuff, right? Because I mean, the thing was, like, I didn't want to be the Deadspin guy. Like, I always wanted to be a writer. But obviously, I mean, Gawker Media is such a huge platform, and most of the people that I admired there were there for a year and then got a job at New York Magazine or The Atlantic or something like that. And that's what I thought my path was. But I had such a good, I was a pretty good reporter, but I was a really good gossip reporter, which is not something that I really necessarily wanted. It was kind of a skill I had that was very valuable at that company. But yeah, I mean, it was tough for me in ways that I felt like I had these golden handcuffs where it's just like, oh, this is not the job that I want, but this is the job that I'm good at. And this is the job that many people want.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. And the writing's good, even when it's it's about you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I want to say it's like a hack, but the writing's really good and there's nothing in it, in that moment that my mom, was just older and not in a position to really kind of get it, that she was revealing something that I didn't want. And then it was like, oh, Mom, how did, thanks. And now in my world, and again, for you, and you're going through it in the trial and all that other stuff, you feel like everywhere you go, everybody's thinking about it, talking about it, reading about it. And 100%. It just is not the case.
Not the case. Right.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And then they move on about their day. It's the same thing I taught with the hair thing and the whatever. Everybody's got their own stuff. And you just, but when you're in it and you feel like, I was going through enough, everybody's been through stuff like that. So I'm not saying I'm unique, but I'm glad to know that I was right in remembering when I first came across you and you were nice enough to say, hey, whatever you're about to air on this thing or yell at me or this is a pub, people can see this.
Would you do a talk show again?
Yeah, I think, if I've done a few of them, one of which, obviously the HBO thing, the Artie Lange deal, the Artie Lange show with guest appearance by Joe Buck instead of the Joe Buck show with guest appearance by Artie Lange.
That was your first one?
No, I filled in 2 nights on the Late Late Show when they were going through the Rolodex of people who were going to take over. I think it's the job that Craig Ferguson eventually got.
Got it. Okay.
I think Kilborn was leaving. I think this is right. Kilborn was leaving. They had that gap of time and they were trying out different people. And it's like me doing GMA this year. Like when you try out for something and you don't want the job, it's extremely freeing to not really care how you do. Now, did I care how I did? Of course. I wanted to do great. I wanted them to want me. I wanted them to offer me 10 jobs. But I wasn't pining for the job. So I did it 2 nights. I got to interview Ludacris, which was awesome. Kristen Chenoweth. And then I realized, even like the HBO thing, eventually they're like, well, do you know anybody that wants to come on a late night show? I'm like, yeah, I know Jason Patrick is a friend of mine and Adam Scott, who this is before Adam Scott was Adam Scott. And so whatever, I did that. I had fun. This gentleman named Peter LaSalle, who was Letterman's producer for a long time and worked at Worldwide Pants, I think, was like, you're a Fox guy, but if something happened, I would offer a job to you. I was like, that's all I needed to hear. That he thought I did a good job. So, and then we do the HBO thing. And I was the one that got Artie booked. I was like, they're like, who do you want?
Yeah.
Give me. And I was friends with Rudd. I think Rudd brought Sudeikis. And they're like, who else can we? And Keckner did a thing on that, David Keckner. And then they said, who else would you want? I'm like, Artie Lange, because I'm a huge Stern fan.
Right.
Or that was in the heyday of Artie on Stern.
He was the greatest.
The greatest. And I was like, he's a real sports fan. He's not a phony sports fan, probably because of gambling and everything else. And he cares about sports. Get him on. He'd be a blast. And so they booked him. I go in beforehand. This is all ancient history, but I went in. I was like, hey, I said, first of all, nice to meet you. He could not have been nicer. And I said, when you get out there, my exact words, light me up. Like, give me shit. I don't care.
Yeah.
Let me have it. And now what that means to me and you and what that means to Artie were two different things. And as I wrote the foreword for his book,
Too Fat to Fish.
Second book. Yeah,
it wasn't Too Fat to Fish. Too Fat to Fish was my favorite. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, whatever came out next, I wrote the foreword to it, I believe. And so he admitted in that he snorted Vicodin and drank Jack Daniels and then came out there. Mm-hmm. And okay, but fine. Did I like it? No. Was I in a position where I could really fire back and start going, listen, motherfucker? No. I just had to kind of sit there and take it because I already had a day job and I didn't want to. I just let him do his thing. And eventually it's going to be over. And HBO just completely overreacted. And, it just became a thing.